What's up YouTube? Paul here, the Team APS. In today's video, I'm going to answer a question that I get asked quite a lot, and that's how do I start a local Yu-Gi-Oh community when there isn't one? A lot of people ask me this on social media, and so I figured I would finally answer it with some tips of mine, along with some experiences that I've had, and just we're going to talk about, how to kind of create a scene, how to maintain a scene. Let's get started. Alright, so let's paint a picture. You like Yu-Gi-Oh! You like the anime, you bought the cards, you collect them, you've made your own decks. And maybe you play with like a sibling or something or one close friend, but there's no one really to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With in your town, your city, or maybe not even like 30 minutes or an hour away. You might play online, but obviously you want to play with real people. That's kind of the fun of the game. So how do you go about, making a scene where it feels like there's no one else who plays in your school or your community? Let's talk about this. So for reference, I've had the very same problem. When I was in, I want to say 7th grade, was kind of when I got interested in Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. I'd been interested in it like as a kid, but that was different. And around like 7th grade, I think, I kind of got interested in it again. I was like, this would be fun to play. But there wasn't anywhere to play. There wasn't a card shop in the city where I lived, and I didn't really know too many other people that played. So what ended up happening was basically I found people that I knew had been interested in it when I was in like elementary school, and I hosted a small tournament at my local library. Now it seems kind of lame, to have to play at a library, but that's actually where we played for the most part for several years, and I met a lot of people that way, and we would meet there like after school every day and just play Yu-Gi-Oh! And it got like kind of competitive between us, but we also became good friends. And so that's going to be sort of the model or the situation I point to a lot in this video, my experiences with that. So tip number 1, host a tournament. I feel like it's the fastest way to gather attention. It's harder to just say, does anyone want to play Yu-Gi-Oh? Let's meet up and play it. You pretty much have to have a tournament. I actually am sort of an event organizer at my school, like college school right now. I host Smash Brothers tournaments, and on a college campus, they're huge. The turnouts are great, but the thing is, you kind of have to have something major. I feel like it's not enough just to say, oh, I want to find someone to play with. You have to kind of have an event to get people there, to like pull people in. And so a tournament is the best way to do that. People always want to test their skills against other people, and with Yu-Gi-Oh! Players and stuff like that, it kind of feels like a lot of them tend to be rather closet players. They might be a little insecure about the fact that they play the game. They might just be people who used to play it but have kind of gotten out of it but still remember it. And this is just sort of the jolt that a lot of people need to get interested in it again. A tournament, and obviously there are other complications with running a tournament, like, you have to find a place to do it and stuff like that. And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, but I feel like it's easier to just say, let's do a tournament than let's meet up and play Yu-Gi-Oh! Having a tournament will pull in people quickly and pull in a lot of them, and then from there you can sort of establish a scene. And when it comes to running your first tournament, don't worry too much about running it perfectly by ideal tournament standards. You have to expect that a lot of people that show up there aren't going to necessarily be like tip-top competitive players. It's kind of where you might move later on, but at the start you're just gonna have a lot of, filthy casuals or whatever. You're gonna have a lot of, old school veteran players who just remember Time Wizard and Red Eyes and Dark Magician, and they have their big 60 card or 100 card deck. You're gonna get just a pool of different stuff, and so you just kind of have to just run like a single elimination bracket tournament, like just something simple like that. The idea for a tournament, or at least the first one, is more just to get people in the door, get people together, and then you can move on. So the next tip, well, sort of issue, but tip, is finding a venue, finding a place to play. This is first a problem with, hosting a tournament. You have to find a place to do it, but also the issue of just where do you regularly play is kind of a thing. So my suggestions to look are actually first and foremost schools. Sometimes playing in school is difficult. Some schools like this aren't really, they seem to be for whatever reason opposed to the idea of like, you know, bringing playing cards to school. People, I know some schools think it's like, they might be like gambling or something like that, which you'd be surprised that stuff comes up. But you know, if there's ever a way for you to like have an after school thing that where you're able to go into a classroom or a gym or something, or a library, like those are good things like at a school. Use those types of places if you can. Also, libraries, just like public libraries, tend to be a good place. Most libraries let you reserve like meeting rooms and stuff, and that's what we did a lot. We also just kind of went to the public like study areas of the library and just played on the tables there. It's a bit lame, but like I said, you have to start somewhere, and it was actually really great, like in the sense that it wasn't super crowded, it wasn't super loud. We were the ones making most of the noise. It was fun, and it wasn't like an overly distracting place or an overbearing place, and it was just a public place. It was like open from, you know, standard hours, and so like we could always be sure that we could go there and we could play. So a library is a good place. Also, churches tend to be nice. If you're like in good with a church, that can be a good place to play. They sometimes will let you play at those types of places. Now I know some churches think Yu-Gi-Oh's evil, but I'd like to think in 2016 that's not as big of a deal. But who knows? So those are the places I tend to look for. Now, if you're somebody who's somewhat well connected, or you know, your family runs a business, or you know somebody who owns some venue or space, then this problem becomes a little bit alleviated. They might just let you, you know, play in like a rec center or a building or an office, like an office building that like a family member owns. It's rare, but those are the types of things I feel like you should look for venues. And if not that, then you just kind of gotta meet at someone's house. Or, you know, whichever friend you have that has, you know, the biggest house or the biggest space in their house to play, you know, if they can host people, then that might just be where you have to regularly meet and play, if there's not a card shop. And if there is a card shop or a hobby shop, those are sometimes places that you should look as well. So, you know, talk to the owner of a hobby shop and see if they would be interested in, you know, hosting Yu-Gi-Oh! Hobby shops, collectibles shops, things like that. Any type of gaming centers, those are rare, but like they exist. Those tend to be places you should gravitate towards when you're trying to find a place to host a Yu-Gi-Oh scene. Next is advertising. If you host a tournament, like I said, I think tournaments are the go-to thing that you should always do to grab that attention. If you're hosting a tournament, you definitely want to make sure that you advertise it, and advertising is really important. Like I said, I've hosted Smash Brothers tournaments at my school. I host them here, and advertising's been the biggest, most important thing. If there's any way you can advertise that's like feasible, do it. So that means real life and online. Flyers go a long way. Don't be ashamed about like making flyers and legitimately like posting them places. Places like GameStop, I know in a lot of towns, they actually usually allow you to, you know, put like a flyer or a little card, like a mini flyer or a card. Like, so as long as you talk to them about it, they actually tend not to be opposed to that sort of stuff. Hobby shops and game shops, your local library, a lot of times will let you put stuff on like bulletin boards. You really want to take advantage of that. People do read, you know, bulletin boards. There are people who do, and newspapers are another incredible one. You really want to make good use of those. They are just great because, you know, like it's a newspaper. Now you do have to pay for newspaper advertising, but I think it's well worth it if you end up, you know, growing a scene just from having to pay that kind of a one-time fee of getting your advertisement in there. So I think advertising is important. Now, as for social media, it's great because you can create a Facebook event page and just make it a public event, invite some of your friends who may or may not be interested, and the ones who join it, they might invite their friends. Facebook events are a real snowball effect sort of deal because whenever you know, make a Facebook event and somebody clicks accept, like they're going to attend it, it shows up on their wall, and so their friends see that, you know, Paul said he's going to this Yu-Gi-Oh event. Oh, I remember Yu-Gi-Oh, it was fun. And so they'll also sort of check it out and be interested in it, and you know, that goes a very long way. Twitter and like Instagram, not as maybe good. Snapchat, obviously not really as good for advertising stuff. But any social media that you're into can work, but definitely Facebook. Facebook's great. And actually, I'll get into a little bit later how else Facebook can be useful for maintaining a community and a scene, but you definitely want to advertise online. You can do paid advertising, but I think that's not really a big deal, like for starting out. Just create a public Facebook event. I think that goes a really long way. So the next thing is maintaining a scene, creating friendships, I think is actually kind of more the thing I want to talk about here. So after you've had your first tournament, you'll probably get loads of people, lots of attendance, and the thing is, a lot of them are gonna fall off. A lot of them won't appear again. They won't, they'll just come and they'll go. They won't talk to people. They might not ever show up again. And that's okay. But there are going to be people who really enjoyed it, and you want to make friends with those people. You don't want to just be friends with them on a Yu-Gi-Oh basis either. It helps just kind of befriend people. I think that for me has been a big deal with the Smash community that I've kind of made at my school. I've met a lot of friends and it's been great. But also when I played Yu-Gi-Oh back in 7th and 8th grade, when we played at that library, we also became good friends because of it. We didn't just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, we also did other things. We would hang out, we would go, do fun stuff and talk about non-Yu-Gi-Oh things. I think that really helps to make, it makes the experience better. When people are closer friends, they'll want to help you in the future. They'll want to come to more Yu-Gi-Oh events, play more. It's really great to create a Facebook group. Facebook groups are the best thing for like just kind of maintaining and developing a community. Insert the name of your city, Yu-Gi-Oh. Like that's the name of the group. So if you live in Chicago, Illinois, Chicago Yu-Gi-Oh community. That's the Facebook group. Invite all the people in that showed up to the tournament and just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, your favorite decks, pictures, anime stuff. I say at that point, it's not important for it to necessarily be competitive. It's just important that you are talking, bonding, being active, stuff is happening. It really helps to grow the scene and you can become better friends with people. That's a really big deal because I think a lot of people forget that Yu-Gi-Oh is a social thing. It is more than just playing the game. So make, a group. And later on you can do like other stuff like Discord is like, I know some people use like Discord chat and stuff like that. But I think that Facebook is just pretty much the best way. And it's great because like in these days, that's a go-to thing that a lot of people expect. You don't have to worry as much about forums and, things like that anymore. Or even necessarily having to text people. You can just be in a Facebook group, and I think that goes a long way. So try to do that. Last but not least, travel. Why I say this is because traveling is kind of the final sort of glue that I think brings a community together. So when you and your community, your group of friends, travel to an event, I think that usually ends up being the experience that makes everyone finally truly committed to a community. So this happened, like I said, with my Smash community that I built here. We have traveled to events out of town to things like an hour or two away. Try going to a regional. Try getting the people in your group that are the most dedicated, and invite everybody, but get the people who are most dedicated, the people who are the most active, and travel to a regional. Again, it's not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about going and just going with your group, carpooling together, take 1 or 2 cars and just everyone chips in for gas and just go to that regional that's 2 or 3 hours away. Don't think so much about like, oh, it's gonna be so expensive, or oh, it's gonna be, we're gonna lose. It's the experience that counts. After a regional, there's nothing, at least in my experiences, after a regional is the point in time where I'm the most ready to play more Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, yes, I'm like pooped from the regional itself and like I don't want to, I want to take a day to rest, but that's also the time when most people start just really theory crafting. Like when you go to a regional and you see what that competitive scene is like, you get that competitive juice and experience and that taste of it, you want to start changing your decks, you want to start building new things, you want to start learning how to play better and go to more. And when you share that experience with friends, it's a really big deal. It really just brings you closer together and everybody will really want their community to do well. Make a rivalry with another community. That's something that helps a lot if it's like a competitive game, if there's an opposing school, you know what I mean? You can kind of have a rivalry with that school or, kind of an opposing city's scene or region. That stuff's a big deal. I feel like that's kind of the glue. It really brings your scene together, just traveling to an event and then traveling to more events, planning things like that. Comparing your results and talking about it. So those are my 5 tips to building a Yu-Gi-Oh community. There are lots of other things you can do, but I think these are great ways to get started and just building and maintaining a scene. Yu-Gi-Oh is a lot of fun, but you have to meet other people. You have to just go out and do it. You have to host that first tournament. You have to, be diligent in finding a place. Don't just say, oh, well, no one at school plays it. I guess that's it. You gotta like go out and find a place and go to a library or a hobby store or a church or wherever you have to go, rec center, and advertise. Really, really advertise. Make the Facebook group or make the Facebook event. Make flyers, put them places. Don't be nervous. Don't be shy. Don't focus, on the competitive part or about the money part. It's finding friends and growing as a scene and creating a group, a consistent, active community. It's a big deal. So if you guys have other tips or experiences from creating a Yu-Gi-Oh event in your area or hosting tournaments or anything, share your experiences below. If this helped you or you think this might help a friend that you know, share the video with them. I really do think that these tips do work. I think that there are other things, so the comments are just free reign. Talk about it. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. That's the video. I hope you guys liked it. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! And also, I upload videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So if you want more meaningful talk like this, then you know what to do. So that's it. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.